welcome. I'm Robert, and today I want to discuss Battles of Medieval Britain, a solitaire wargame by Mike Lambo. This is one of his many wargaming solitaire books that you can find on Amazon and Wargamers Vault digitally. And I have seen lots of people posting, their play sessions about various of his books in the past. And earlier this year, this is the one that caught my attention when I started looking at his library. And this past week, I went ahead and played the entire 12 scenarios. So before I get into detail, I want to give you my perspective as far as wargaming goes, of my past experience. Where I'm coming from with this. So I'm gonna put on screen for a few seconds what my past wargame experience is. And if you're keen on the types of games that I've put up on the screen, you'll notice that very few of them, if any really, are pure hex and counter historical war games. It's definitely a category that I have not experienced a whole lot, and the reason for that is a lot of historical pure hex and counter war games are not purely made for solo. Typically, what war gamers have been doing for decades is you just play both sides, and that's it, really, since there's no hidden information. To be honest with you, that doesn't appeal to me a whole lot. So that's why I haven't dug too much into that category. But what Mike Lambo here has done is he has created a system that makes it completely solvable, very low maintenance, and it's easy to learn and accessible, and provides a pretty satisfying solitaire wargaming experience. Okay, so with that, let's first discuss the rules. So as I mentioned, it's very accessible, and one thing to keep in mind is that the book doesn't come in spiral bound like this. I paid a few bucks to my local shop to have the book spiral bound, and I think that I'm pretty sure that that made it a lot easier for me to experience it. Not having to deal with either photocopying the scenarios or figuring out some way to keep the book open. Okay. So before I get into the rules, sorry, I wanted to mention that another thing, components wise, that I need to mention is that the game, when you buy the game, you only get the book. So you have to craft your own tokens, which if you go at the end of the book here, you can also find this file for free on BoardGameGeek. You can photocopy this and craft your own tokens. I've seen lots of people where they just photocopy it and then just have the little pieces of paper going around, and that's worked for a lot of people. I went a bit of a step further. What I did myself was I created these tokens. So I printed the tokens on sticker paper and laminated it, and then I glued it and cut and glued it to these. These are from Role Player. When you punch the player boards in Role Player, you get hundreds of these that don't, you're supposed to waste them, but I knew that one day they could be useful. So I kept them, all right, and finally I found a use for these. So that's one way you can do it. And I'll comment more on this later on the whole aspect of having to craft the tokens. So that's one thing that you need to keep in mind. You have to make the tokens, okay? All right, now as far as the rules, it's incredibly accessible. It's only a few pages, all right? It's only a few pages, and after a game or two, I already internalized it very well. And there is a player aid that is included, and I went and photocopied it so that I could use it with every scenario. All right, but I rarely have to reference this. It's very simple. It's very it's simple, but yet it offers a very nice experience. So what this felt to me, what this was akin to, it kind of felt like so I have played Memoir 44, as I showed in the slide earlier, and this uses. I think this is definitely inspired by that. It's definitely inspired by that system where you roll for your units. You roll to determine what they're gonna do. Right. So there may be turns where your unit will be able to move depending on the dice that you roll for it, or it will be able to attack. So the dice determine the actions for the unit. So that system is, from what I understand, because I did play Memoir 44. That's the command and color system. And you need to provide your own dice, duh. Obviously, okay. So you need to provide your own dice. But yeah, it's inspired by that. But the player, what the rule set here allows you to do is it allows you to focus on your own tactics, and the enemy AI doesn't move; it's static, but it adds reinforcements throughout the turns, and you have a set amount of turns for you to uh, clear the board of enemies. Okay, and you have to be very mindful because you don't get reinforcements while the AI does get multiple reinforcements throughout each scenario. So you have to be very careful with how you move your units. You can't. One thing that the book even mentions, it even has a page for tactical tips. And one thing that it mentions is that you should not rush into battle. Okay, you should not rush into battle, and that's definitely one thing that you don't want to do. I did try to do that a couple of times to see if the risk was worth it, and that was never the case. If you try to like just rush into battle with your units, that's pretty much a death sentence. There may be one thing with the enemy AI is that the scenarios, when you set up the positioning of the enemy AI, it's variable, right? You have to roll, and based on the number that you roll, each AI will have a preference. So let's say that you roll a 6. So certain types of units will have, let's say, like the spearmen will prefer to land on the number 6. That's most towards the down or up in the map. Okay, so if you roll a 6 for this guy, it'll be the 6 that's lower, or if you roll a 6 for this guy, it'll be on the one that's towards the upper part of the map. So what I'm trying to say is that if you do repeat plays, the 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 enemy positioning will vary greatly, all right, which adds to the replayability. So as far as my experience with the game, as I mentioned earlier, I played through the entire book, 12 scenarios. It added up to 22 plays in total because multiple of these scenarios required multiple tries, and um, not, and again, it not because of the variable setup, the puzzle was different every time. You are provided a fixed amount of units. All right, you are provided a fixed amount of units, but the setup is variable. Um, there's also difficulty settings, so you're able to make difficulty adjustments in the book. It does provide you a couple ways of adjusting difficulty in regards to the AI, or rounds, which will put more pressure on you. I didn't find the need for that. So in my experience from playing the scenarios, and they were all in regular difficulty. They were all in regular, just the normal difficulty. Uh, the win ratio, when I checked how many times I won, it was about 50-50, right? It felt pretty balanced. It felt pretty balanced. There were a few scenarios that required more tries. I think the most difficult one, in case you've played the game already, there's a scenario where you have to kill William Wallace. All right. There's a scenario where you have to kill William Wallace, and this was the most difficult one for me. But that might vary for everybody. I tried. There's a couple scenarios where instead of clearing the board, you only have to kill the leader basically, and um, there were I did try choosing those scenarios to like go straight for the leader, and that didn't work. If you're extremely lucky, that might work, but but it didn't work for me. But yeah, so that's what the game entails. You're gonna have the 12 scenarios, various difficulty levels, variable setup. So each play will not feel like the same at all. So I played through all the scenarios this week. Okay, this past week, and every pretty much all of the free gaming time I had, I dedicated to this, and I loved it. It was extremely fun, and this was my first, like I mentioned earlier, my first pure hex encounter experience as far as historical war games go, with scenarios based on historical battles. Um, and I loved it. And I didn't, I didn't have to do the whole thing of like playing two-handed. That's never really appealed to me. One thing that helped a lot, so you have to provide your own dice, right? Initially, I did use these, but one thing that helped me, focus on my tactics and play a bit faster, and this is something I rarely do. I don't know why, but um, this time I felt compelled to trying to accelerate the dice rolling aspect. So I did a split screen here with two different dice apps on my phone, and you have your unit action dice here, and then you have your attack dice there. All right, so this helped me just focus on my tactics and play my scenarios really fast. Okay, so a little setup there. So yeah, I had a blast with this. This is not gonna be the last book from Mike Lambo that I'm gonna get. I have my eyes on that. There's one about the English Civil War that I'm pretty interested in. There's a Napoleonic one. I also want to make a little comparison here. One of the war games that I showed earlier on that screen was Bismarck Solitaire, which is another one of those book war games that you can buy from Amazon, where you have to provide your own dice. That game didn't do anything for me really. I didn't find the decision making interesting. No offense to the folks over there. I really like this business model of releasing games directly to Amazon, to the consumer, and you have to provide your own dice. I think it's really, really cool. I like that both Worthington, they've been successful with it, so I'm happy for them that they're successful with that line. So Worthington Publishing has been doing that, and Mike Lambo has been doing this for a couple of years now, and I think it's really cool, and definitely one business model that I've already I've been floating some ideas of taking advantage of this model for releasing games. So really kudos to them for getting the best out of it. And I've been enjoying this a lot. We'll get more. And one other thing that I'm keen on is I really like this system for like if I wish I had like like miniatures and like terrain for me to play this in. It will be a lot of work. I saw some pictures of folks using Memoir 44 boards and hexes to create the maps, and using little wooden tokens, which is an upgrade as far as the tactile experience. It's cool. I've just been floating that idea because I really like this system so much. I would love to just recreate these maps with like terrain, like legit wargaming terrain with grass and everything and miniatures. That would be a lot of time. But that would be a lot of time and effort to do that. But I've floated the idea because I just like this system so much, and I don't have like a proper, up until this point, I didn't have a proper like medieval war game, medieval historical war game that could be properly soloed, and the system just lends itself so well for it. So congrats to Mike for this series of books. I'll definitely get more. And retroactively, when thinking about my when thinking about my top 20 list that many of you have seen for introductory games for for people who want to begin the solo board gaming hobby, I would heavily consider adding this retroactively to that list. My only concern is the fact that you have to craft the tokens. I have overestimated in the past with some of you might know about the solitaire variants I make. How much people how much people are willing to put time into crafting things. Some people don't have the time, or maybe they don't want to. So that's a little barrier. That people might have when it comes to this. So I do have a little suggestion for Mr. Mike. Um, there's a chance you might have heard about the Game Crafter, okay? And the Game Crafter, the thing with the Game Crafter, which it's a on-demand board game service, but they also just create components, right? So you could submit your counter sheets to the Game Crafter, and folks, a lot of us folk in the solo board gaming community, we already purchased from the Game Crafter, right? So if you upload your counter sheets to the Game Crafter as die cut cardboard sheets, that I'm sure that would not add up to more than a few bucks, maybe like $5. Like I would estimate, it's just a die cut counter sheet. You could sell the counter sheets ready from the Game Crafter, and next time we make a purchase from the Game Crafter for another reason, like we joined crowd sales, we a lot of and I know that it's mostly stateside. I'm sorry for the folks overseas. I know that the pricing, the shipping can be a bit, it can definitely be restrictive for folks overseas. But I'm sure that you have a clientele here in the stateside. If and you could upload your counter sheets to the Game Crafter, and you'll make a bit more money there. We won't have to craft the tokens, and we'll get like nice quality tokens to accompany your games. But just a little food for thought there. If Mr. Mike sees this review, if you would like to upload your counter sheets to the Game Crafter, I would love to buy them, so that next time I buy one of your books, I don't have to craft the tokens manually. But anyway, so those are my thoughts on Battles of Medieval Britain. This was a joy, an absolute joy to play. It felt like, in a weird way, it felt like playing like solitaire chess in a certain way, with a medieval theme and everything. And even when I lost, like no matter, like I just re-rolled the enemy position and gave it another shot. So I managed to beat all 12 scenarios. I loved one thing I didn't comment on. I loved learning about the battles. One joyous thing about war games, as always, is learning, the learning aspect of it, of historical learning aspect of it. So that's always the cherry on top when I enjoy a war game. So lovely title, lovely series of books. I'm definitely gonna be acquiring a few more in this series. So that's it. I want to thank you so much for watching. If you folks have any comments, questions, feedback, put them in the comment section. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.